Beneath the burning horizon of southern Mesopotamia, the sands whisper a name, Eridu. To archaeologists, it's the first city. To the ancients, it was the dwelling place of Enki, the god of wisdom and creation. But to those who have studied its ruins closely, Eridu is something else entirely. When British excavators dug into the mounds near modern-day Abu Shahrain, they expected broken pottery, temple walls, maybe a few clay tablets. Instead, they found evidence of extreme heat, fused stone, blackened layers of sand, and a foundation that seemed melted rather than built. How could that be possible in a time when humanity supposedly only knew fire and clay? In nearby Uruk, strange magnetic readings were recorded beneath the ruins of the ziggurat of Anu, buried chambers that appeared on radar but were sealed by vitrified rock. And inside one broken tablet, barely decipherable under centuries of decay, a line that has haunted researchers ever since. When the me hummed beneath the house of water, the gods walked again. What was this me? To scholars, it was a divine power, the blueprint of civilization. But to a growing number of independent researchers, me wasn't a metaphor. It was a machine. A living technology, humming, resonating, storing something humanity was never meant to control. Some tablets describe Enki constructing these devices deep within the Abzu, his subterranean domain beneath Eridu, a place where water and metal merged. Others mention the breath of the gods stored in crystal vessels and shining eyes that watched the heavens from below. Were these mere symbols of divine wisdom, or did the Sumerians record something they truly saw, something mechanical, something powerful, buried beneath their temples? Because if these writings are accurate, then the oldest city on Earth was never just a city. It was a lab, a living engine, powered by forces we still can't explain. So what if the gods weren't gods at all? What if they were engineers, the last keepers of a forgotten machine? And what if it's still down there, waiting for the world to remember how to wake it up? Beneath the dust-choked ruins of Eridu, archaeologists thought they had reached the city's foundation, but the earth still whispered otherwise. In 2018, during a joint Iraqi-European excavation, a team drilled deeper than any before, below layers of ancient settlement. What they found wasn't clay, but a smooth, black, stone-like surface, uniform, almost machined. At first, they believed it to be basalt, common in Mesopotamian temples. But basalt doesn't conduct electricity. This material did. When a geologist applied a conductivity meter out of curiosity, the needle flickered, then spiked. The sample, later analyzed in a Baghdad laboratory, showed traces of an unknown alloy, silicon, carbon, and a rare metallic compound similar to tungsten carbide, a material not replicable with Bronze Age tools. It shouldn't exist there, and yet it did. Some called it a contamination, others a hoax. But then, deep under Uruk, 250 kilometers away, a similar alloy was discovered, buried beneath the old ziggurat foundation, a grid-like pattern of fused stone, as if something once burned hot enough to melt rock into geometry. One of the researchers, Dr. Karim al-Samarai, noted something strange in his field report. The structure is neither natural nor architectural. It appears functional, though its purpose is beyond our understanding. In other words, it wasn't built to be seen. It was built to work. Some Sumerian tablets from the same region mention Milam, translated roughly as divine radiance, or the shining aura of the gods. Most historians interpret it as poetic symbolism. But what if it wasn't? One fragment from Eridu's temple to Enki speaks of the me that hums beneath the waters, where the light breathes and the ground sings. That line has haunted researchers for decades. What could the ground sings possibly mean? Vibration, resonance, some kind of buried energy source? And here's where things get stranger. Satellite ground-penetrating radar (GPR) scans conducted in 2021 revealed circular anomalies under both Eridu and Uruk, concentric layers resembling modern turbine chambers, each roughly 100 meters wide, each aligned precisely to magnetic north. Coincidence or design? Some researchers propose these were ancient aqueduct regulators or ritual chambers, but the scale doesn't match. These chambers weren't designed for humans, at least not for any ritual we understand. When compared to modern reactor blueprints, the similarities are unsettling. A central chamber, surrounding ducts, and a containment wall made of heat-resistant stone fused with unknown metallic residue. One anonymous researcher allegedly described it as a structure that looks less like a temple and more like an engine. If true, that changes everything. But here's the problem. Within weeks of the discovery, the dig was halted. The local government cited security concerns. All findings were classified, and the site was sealed. Yet, satellite data later showed heavy machinery being moved to both Eridu and Uruk under cover of night, months after the official shutdown. Someone, it seems, wasn't done digging. Could these machines have once powered the temples of Sumer? Were they energy sources, or something far more complex? If the gods of Sumer were not divine beings, but engineers, what were they building? And more importantly, why did they bury it all? When the Sumerians wrote of the god Enki, they called him the Lord who rose from the Abzu. To most scholars, the Abzu meant the subterranean waters, the deep aquifers beneath Mesopotamia. But the cuneiform doesn't just say water, it says the deep chamber beneath where knowledge hums. A chamber that hums. That phrase has surfaced on more than a dozen tablets, from Eridu, Uruk, even Lagash. And now, as technology peers deeper into the earth, those words suddenly feel less mythical and more literal. In 2022, researchers from the University of Turin used muon tomography, the same scanning method used to map hidden chambers inside the Egyptian pyramids, to analyze a restricted zone beneath Eridu's tell. The scans revealed a hollow structure, rectangular and metallic in density signature, roughly 30 meters below the known excavation level. But that's not the most disturbing part. The chamber emitted a weak, continuous electromagnetic signal, pulsing every 41 seconds. No device, no modern transmitter was found on site. Just the hum. At first, skeptics argued it was underground mineral resonance or equipment interference. But even after every power source was shut down, the pulse continued. 41 seconds, every time, as if something below was still alive. Ancient records describe Enki's temple as a place of awakening light. One tablet, unearthed in 1926 but long dismissed as poetic, reads, "When the me hums beneath the Abzu, Enki's words are born again in fire and mist. The city shines, the gods speak, the people forget." For decades, it was interpreted as a metaphor for ritual renewal, the rebirth of civilization. But what if fire and mist referred not to religion, but to technology? A system that generated light, heat, and power? What if the people forget wasn't a warning, but a prophecy? Under Uruk, a similar hum was detected years earlier, dismissed as seismic interference. Both Eridu and Uruk lie along the same magnetic alignment line that extends northeast, toward the ancient city of Nippur. When mapped, the coordinates form a perfect geometric triangle, an alignment far too precise to be random. Engineers studying the data noticed something chilling. The distances between the three sites mirror modern electrical grid distribution patterns, with each city sitting roughly equidistant, as if forming a network. Could these temples have been nodes, part of an ancient power system spanning southern Mesopotamia? If so, who built it, and what powered it? Some theorists point to the mysterious black stone fragments found beneath Eridu, fragments that, when struck by laser spectroscopy, produced faint bursts of light. As if the material stored energy, not unlike a capacitor. Others believe the temples harnessed underground heat, geothermal energy from the Abzu's waters. If the Sumerians had discovered a way to channel that, it could explain why their earliest cities thrived in regions otherwise too barren to sustain massive populations. But here's the question no one dares to ask out loud. If they had power, real physical energy, where did it go? Why did it stop? The last known king of Eridu, Uanadapa, was said to be one who knew the me, but hid them from men. One inscription reads, "He sealed the humming stones beneath the earth, lest the sky tremble again." What sky? What tremble? Was there an accident? A disaster powerful enough to end the Sumerian age overnight? If the hum beneath Eridu still echoes after 6,000 years, it might not be myth anymore. It might be memory. But if something still breathes beneath those ruins, if the ground still sings with the voice of the old gods, then the real question becomes, who buried it? Who silenced it? And what happens if it wakes again? They said the hum had stopped, that the instruments went silent, that it was nothing more than a geological anomaly. But those who were there that night, the engineers, the local guards, the scientists from the private European firm funding the Eridu Deep Excavation Project, still refused to talk. Except one. A technician, identified only as RK, leaked fragments of the internal report to a journalist in Basra in early 2024. The document was labeled Classified Resonance Event, Level 3. According to RK, the team had drilled 37 meters beneath the lower ziggurat level when the drill bit struck a layer of fused stone, the same type that had puzzled archaeologists years before. Moments later, every sensor on the rig spiked. Seismic, electromagnetic, even temperature. The hum didn't fade this time. It roared. The ground beneath Eridu vibrated. Deep, rhythmic, almost patterned. Witnesses said it felt like standing next to a massive, invisible engine buried beneath their feet. The team panicked, shut down the drill, and evacuated. But the vibration continued for exactly 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Then, silence. When they returned, the fused layer was gone. In its place was an empty cavity, smooth, circular, and lined with something metallic that didn't match any known composition. Half the equipment malfunctioned the moment it touched the edge. A week later, the site was sealed. Officially, due to unexpected structural instability. Unofficially, because no one could explain what they found. The leaked report mentioned something else, too. Something quietly redacted in later versions. The resonance frequency aligns precisely with the numerical series 72241. Known cuneiform correlation. Melam, divine light. Subject remains active. That number, 41, the same pulse detected years earlier beneath the temple of Enki. Coincidence or connection? Ancient texts describe the Melam as the radiant power of the gods. Priests wrote that when Enki or Inanna descended to their temples, the Melam shone like a star. The people could not look upon it. To scholars, this meant divine glory. But radiance, that word recurs alongside sound, hum, and light that burns without fire. The Sumerians didn't have electricity. They didn't have incandescent light. So what exactly were they describing? Around the same time, researchers in satellite archaeology began noticing something strange. Beneath the sands surrounding Eridu and Uruk, faint geometric imprints, perfect hexagonal grids spanning several kilometers. They weren't roads. They weren't irrigation lines. When enhanced through infrared imaging, these formations glowed faintly, reflecting heat in an unnaturally uniform pattern, as if some dense material still lay buried deep below, aligned in a network. Some physicists suggested these grids could act as resonance channels, directing vibrations or energy between distant points. But to what purpose? If each temple, Eridu, Uruk, Nippur, was a node, then the network wasn't religious. It was functional, an ancient system. And that brings us to the oldest of all tablets, the Eridu Genesis. It speaks not of worship, but instruction. When the waters of the Abzu stirred, Enki laid the stones that sing. He measured the deep with cords of light, and the Me answered his call. Cords of light. For millennia, people assumed it was metaphorical, but fiber optic engineers recently noted a haunting similarity. In fiber communication, light cords transmit data, exactly as described. Could the stones that sing be some form of data or energy conductor, something we can't yet recreate? And if Enki was the Lord of wisdom and creation, was he simply a deity, or the custodian of a technology humanity inherited but never understood? What's even more disturbing is what happened after the resonance event. Locals near the site reported massive flocks of birds abandoning the area, circling for hours before disappearing. Animals refused to drink from nearby wells. One villager described a low sound, like a giant bee, echoing from beneath the ground for days afterward. Weeks later, geological scans showed the cavity under Eridu had expanded, as if the earth had shifted or something had moved. The government denied it, citing data calibration errors. But another report, leaked later, claimed seismic vibrations were detected as far as Uruk, 200 kilometers away, following the same 41-second pulse pattern. Whatever happened beneath Eridu didn't stay buried. And then there's the prophecy, carved on a black diorite tablet in 1911, translated only recently. When the hum returns, the sky shall open and the rivers forget their path. Men will seek the words of Enki once more, but find only echoes. Was this a warning or a countdown? Because according to modern measurements, the pulse from beneath Eridu, though faint, has been increasing in frequency. It now occurs every 38 seconds. It's accelerating. So what if these weren't temples at all? What if Eridu, Uruk, and Nippur weren't holy sites, but ancient control stations? Places built not to praise gods, but to operate something vast, mechanical, and buried? What could be so powerful that it required 3 entire cities to manage it? And if it's still dormant beneath the desert, what would happen if it woke again after 6,000 years? Maybe that's why the gods left. Maybe they didn't leave at all. Maybe they sealed themselves inside. And now, for the first time in recorded history, we're drilling near the places they warned us to leave untouched. The hum beneath Eridu was never silence. It was waiting. The only question now is, for what? The rain came without warning, not the gentle drizzle of spring, but a sky-shattering torrent that turned day into darkness. To the Sumerians, it was the Abzu unleashed, the underworld ocean rising to reclaim the earth. But according to the oldest cuneiform tablets, this was no accident. It was activated. The flood, they said, was the final command of Enki, the god who had built the foundations of Eridu, the keeper of the Me and guardian of forbidden machines. And in those last desperate hours, before the deluge swallowed the cities whole, the tablets claim something extraordinary happened beneath the ziggurats. The machines of the gods, the stones that sang, were shut down, but not destroyed. They were sealed. In the Eridu Genesis, one phrase stands out among all others. Enki broke the seals of the deep, yet hid the heart of the machine in the waters. For centuries, translators thought this referred to the flood itself, a poetic description of chaos. But a recent analysis of the original Akkadian phrasing revealed something deeper. The word used for heart, libu, can also mean core, engine, or center of power. In modern engineering, core isn't metaphorical, it's literal. So if the Sumerians were describing an actual mechanism, what was this heart that Enki hid beneath the water? And why would a god, or anyone, go to such lengths to bury it? Eridu, and Uruk all share an unsettling pattern. Each was built on layers of older ruins, precisely aligned along an axis pointing toward the Persian Gulf, where the ancient rivers once met the sea. When researchers mapped the substructures, they discovered something uncanny. A triangle connecting the three cities, its vertices aligned with magnetic anomalies buried deep below. Coincidence? Or the remnants of a massive energy network? One theory, whispered among alternative historians, suggests that the Me weren't tablets or codes at all. They were control nodes, devices used to harness natural energy from the earth itself. The gods, or whoever they were, tapped into the planet's resonance, the same hum we still detect beneath Eridu. And when humanity began to misuse that power, when kings tried to seize it for themselves, Enki intervened the only way he could. He triggered a system reset, a flood not of vengeance, but of containment. Archaeologists have always puzzled over the sudden, synchronized collapse of Sumerian cities, entire settlements abandoned overnight, mud brick walls fused into glass, skeletons found encased in hardened clay, as if flash-heated by immense energy. What could have caused such heat across such a vast region 6,000 years ago? Volcanic eruption? None recorded. Meteor impact? No crater. But what if it wasn't from above? What if it came from below? If the machines beneath Eridu were real, and if they were powered by something beyond our understanding, then shutting them down might have unleashed unimaginable energy. Enough to melt stone. Enough to rewrite geography. The 7 tablets of destiny, unearthed in fragments across Mesopotamia, may hold the answer. Each tablet describes laws or forces controlling the cosmos, but in Enki's own words, they were records of command over heaven and earth. The Akkadian word for command is tepu, literally program. So were these tablets mythic symbols of divine order, or encrypted manuals for an ancient machine? Tablet I-4 mentions something chilling. The power beneath the waters shall awaken when men draw lines upon the earth that touch the sky. To some researchers, this line could mean modern electromagnetic grids, satellites, our own technology, unknowingly reactivating what was buried. Could that explain the pulsing frequencies detected beneath Eridu in recent years? Are we, without realizing, turning the machines back on? One particular tablet, found in the ruins of Uruk's Eanna temple dedicated to Inanna, contains a damaged inscription that reads, "The eye of Enki watches still from below the black waters. When the seven lights align, his word shall return." The seven lights, an ancient reference to the visible planets, or perhaps to the seven Mi, the energy nodes described in older hymns. No one knows. But the coincidence is impossible to ignore. Eridu lies beneath the modern-day marshes of southern Iraq. Black waters, indeed. And some believe something still moves beneath them. Satellite LiDAR scans from 2023 revealed a massive circular formation beneath the marshes near Tel Abu Shahrain, ancient Eridu's location. 2 kilometers wide, perfectly symmetrical and hollow. Geologists called it an unusual subsurface void, but its shape matched something eerily familiar, a rotary pattern like a turbine or energy coil. If true, then the heart of the machine Enki buried might still be there, silent, intact, and waiting. But waiting for what? Every civilization that came after, Babylon, Assyria, even Egypt, inherited fragments of Sumerian myths. Each spoke of gods who vanished, promising to return when the deep hums once more. Even the Hebrews wrote of a deluge sent to cleanse the world of forbidden knowledge. The same story, different language, same warning. And now, millennia later, our world is once again humming, with frequencies, with power grids, with experiments that pierce the ionosphere. What if, unknowingly, we're speaking the same cosmic language the Sumerians once did, the language of vibration and resonance? What if the Earth remembers? Because if the Sumerians really did walk with beings who commanded machines of stone and sound, if the flood was not punishment but precaution, then the message left behind wasn't divine mythology. It was a safety protocol, a warning written in clay. When you hear the hum again, remember, the gods did not leave. They are asleep. So now the question remains, what lies beneath Eridu's final layer? What power did Enki hide beneath the waters of the Abzu? And if those machines awaken again after 12,000 years, will they recognize us as their creators or as their mistake? For centuries after the flood, the world was quiet. The old cities lay buried beneath layers of clay, and the hum, the strange pulse that once resonated through the deep, fell silent. But silence doesn't mean death. Sometimes it means sleep. And somewhere, across the shifting sands of southern Iraq, whispers began to spread once more. Whispers of a group, keepers of forbidden knowledge, who called themselves the Sons of the Deep. A priesthood said to have descended from those who once served Enki himself. Their mission was simple: protect what remains, guard what must never awaken. In 1909, a British archaeologist named Thomas Whitby uncovered something unusual near Uruk, a sealed chamber carved with non-Sumerian symbols. Inside it, he found a copper scroll so oxidized it crumbled upon touch. Before it turned to dust, one fragment survived. A few etched words in ancient Akkadian. "The heart sleeps. We keep its name." Whitby dismissed it as a ritual inscription. But when he presented it to scholars in London, one noted something remarkable. The symbols surrounding the text weren't decorative. They were technical schematics. Rotational spirals, parallel lines, nodes connected by angular pathways, eerily similar to the hexagonal grid patterns discovered beneath Eridu decades later. How could a civilization from 6,000 years ago have known such precision unless they had once seen it? Those who study forbidden archaeology believe the Sons of the Deep eventually left Sumer. They migrated west, carrying fragments of the old technology, the Me tablets, encoded not as language, but as geometry and ritual. To Egypt, they became the followers of Thoth. In Greece, the disciples of Hermes Trismegistus. And in the legends of Plato, they became the last priests of Atlantis. Each of these traditions speaks of the same story: a catastrophic flood, a lost city of light, a technology capable of moving mountains and healing flesh. And always, always, a warning: the power of the gods must sleep. Was this mythology or memory? Because when you line up the ruins of Eridu, Uruk, and Abydos, the axis they form points directly toward the Gulf of Aden, an area still considered one of the most magnetically unstable points on Earth. And it's there that deep-sea sonar in 2011 detected something impossible: a massive circular anomaly resting 700 meters beneath the seabed, a shape too symmetrical, too perfect, to be natural. It mirrors the rotary pattern beneath Eridu: two civilizations, thousands of years apart, one design. Maybe Enki didn't destroy the machines. Maybe he just relocated them, deep beneath the ocean, where no mortal could ever reach. The Abzu, after all, was the subterranean sea of creation and of containment. Could that mean that somewhere beneath the waves of the Persian Gulf still lies the heart of Sumerian power, humming softly beneath sediment and time? And if so, how close are we to waking it again? There's another mystery that few discuss. In 2022, a seismic research vessel operating in the northern Gulf recorded a strange pattern: rhythmic vibrations echoing from the deep, repeating every 41 seconds. Yes, 41. The same number that appeared in every resonance event beneath Eridu. The pattern lasted for 6 days, then vanished. No tectonic cause, no equipment malfunction. Just that same low, untraceable hum. Was it the machine of Enki, reminding us that it still breathes beneath the sea? Or was it something older, watching, waiting for a signal from us? If the Sumerians were the first civilization, they may also have been the last to truly remember. They remembered who the gods were. They remembered what slept beneath their temples, and they left us warnings carved in stone, disguised as myths, prayers, and poems, so that when we grew proud enough to dig again, we'd at least hesitate before awakening the deep. But we didn't. We dug. We drilled. And once again, the hum returned. Perhaps the greatest secret of Sumer isn't that they invented writing or mathematics. It's that they knew. They knew the world before history. They knew that creation and destruction were the same process, just played by different hands. And when the gods walked away, maybe they didn't abandon us at all. Maybe they left behind remnants, machines, codes, structures, to test whether humanity could wield creation responsibly. We've spent thousands of years trying to rediscover their technology. But what if the real question isn't how it worked? It's why they hid it. Because every hum beneath the earth, every strange frequency, every anomaly beneath the Persian Gulf, it all leads back to the same truth the Sumerians tried to bury. A truth that's been waiting for us to ask the right question. What if the gods never fell from the heavens? What if they rose from the ground? And if you followed Nexora through the ancient sands, from the Sumerian king list to the black stones of Ninhursag, from the tablets of destiny to the lost temples of Eridu, then you already know one thing. Every story connects. Every myth hides a mechanism, and every discovery brings us closer to what the ancients feared most: the day the hum awakens again. This was The Hidden Machines of Sumer, evidence of lost technology beneath Eridu and Uruk. If you wish to understand the world before the flood and the civilizations that tried to rebuild after it, explore our other journeys into the Sumerian legacy below. The Sumerian king list, ancient rulers, lost secrets, and a timeline that defies history. The tablets of destiny, Sumer's lost records of power and prophecy. The lost temples of Eridu, Sumer's first city and the throne of Enki. The Sumerian legacy, when gods walked with weapons and medicine, was magic because the past isn't gone. It's buried and whispering.